Hey everybody, tonight for dinner we are making creamy beef pasta shells. Unfortunately I don't have shells, so we will be using wagon wheels, which will taste just fine. You can use any pasta you want. You could use fusilli, macaroni, whatever you've got in the cupboard. Tonight we have wagon wheels, so that's what I'm using. So our first step in this recipe is to cook your pasta. The recipe calls for 8 ounces of pasta. I have a 16-ounce box. I'm going to double the recipe, but I will give you all of the ingredients you will need for a half portion, for a single portion. So you're going to need 8 ounces of pasta shells. Again, I'm using 16, but whatever you guys want to do. You're going to need a tablespoon of olive oil, a pound of ground beef, 1 onion diced, 5 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, a half teaspoon of dried oregano, a half teaspoon of paprika. If you have smoked paprika, it makes a huge difference. Use the smoked paprika, guys. 2 tablespoons of flour, a cup of beef stock, a can of marinara. Now, we don't buy jarred pasta sauce, so I have crushed and diced tomatoes. I will use half a can of each and then just add in the spices that we usually do to make pasta sauce, because we don't buy it. It's too sweet. We don't like it. We will also need 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. I have half and half, so that's what we're going to use. 1/4 cup of sour cream, salt and pepper to taste, and cheese. So the first thing we do is cook our pasta. Okay, I'm going to turn my frying pan on so we can heat up the olive oil. 1 tablespoon, give or take. Swirl it around in there. Now wait for it to heat up, and then you're going to cook your ground beef while your pasta's cooking. Okay, so now that your oil's heated up, I can hear it kind of crackling and bubbling. I'm just going to add the ground beef and rinse it up a bit so it cooks more evenly. And we're going to cook this until it's no longer pink anywhere in the pan. So just keep moving it around every few minutes. If you don't have olive oil, again, do not stress out. Use peanut oil, use vegetable oil, use butter if you have to. Butter will burn quicker than olive oil, but just keep an eye on it and you should be fine. So you're going to cook that until it's no longer pink. Alright, now that we have our ground beef cooking over on the stove, I'm going to dice up onions and then we will add garlic. My recipe calls for fresh garlic. Doesn't matter. It's not going to matter how big or small you dice up your onions, just whatever size works for you. And then just throw in the pan with your ground beef. Give it a quick stir. See it's starting to brown up in there. Perfect. Maybe I'll turn it up. And again, we'll leave it for a few more minutes. Then we'll add the garlic. 1, 2, 3. If you want to add more, by all means go ahead. And if you don't like garlic, feel free to omit it. Add something else, take something else away. Okay, as you can see, the beef is all cooked. It's no longer pink. The onions are a little bit translucent. They are soft. And we are going to add 2 tablespoons of flour to the ground beef. This is going to thicken all of the juices here from the onions and the meat. 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. I'm doing double, so I'm doing 4. Stirring this right away so that it doesn't get clumpy. See, right away it's going to start to thicken that up for you. I'm going to turn my oven down so it doesn't get stuck to my pan. This is part of what's going to make it the creamy beef shells. This is thicker consistency. We are adding 2 cups. I'm adding 4 cups of beef stock. You will add 2 cups of beef stock. You can use box beef stock. If you have beef stock on hand that, you know, from a soup or something, you could always use that. Or you can buy the little bouillon cubes, and you could use those also as an option. I'm going to stir that, and it's going to get thicker over the next few minutes. That'll sort of deglaze your pan as well. Some of the flour is stuck to the bottom of my pan, but it will come up once we add all of the, once we've added the stock. My water is boiling here. I'm not quite sure if my wagon wheels are ready. Not quite yet. They're still a bit crunchy in the middle, so we're just gonna cook those for a few minutes longer. Then we'll drain it, put it back in the pot. Okay, so back to our beef mix here. My next step is to add a can of marinara sauce. As mentioned earlier, we don't buy the canned marinara, and I'm doubling my recipe. So I have 1 whole can of diced tomatoes going right in there. And 1 whole can of crushed tomatoes. It's gonna be full. Okay. And we're gonna mix it around, and then we're gonna add our other spices. The next step for my recipe, I am going to add my spices into 1 bowl, and I'm going to transfer the bowl over to the stove instead of doing back and forth. So I need a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of parsley, dried oregano. So there's all my dried spices. I'm going to head back over to the sauce and put it in there. Because we didn't use the jarred marinara sauce, I haven't really seasoned the tomatoes to make it taste like pasta sauce yet. One of the key ingredients for getting your pasta sauce to taste like it does in the jar is you have to add sugar. I know it might seem a bit odd, but you need that sweetness, and it cuts down the acidity of the tomatoes. So if you're also using canned and diced tomatoes, feel free to use additional parsley, basil, thyme, whatever you would put in, garlic, extra garlic powder, onion powder, into the sauce to make it taste like pasta sauce. Otherwise, it's just going to be pretty bland, and it's not going to be as good as it could be. With the majority of the ingredients now in the pot, we're just going to let it boil and thicken. Some of the water will boil off of the sauce, and it'll be a much nicer texture. So we're just going to let that do its thing. This sauce didn't thicken quite as much as I thought it would. If you would like a thicker sauce, you can easily mix up a paste of flour and water or cornstarch and water. Make sure it's watered down a little bit, because if you just add flour into this mixture, it's just all gonna clump together and stay in little balls of flour and not thicken your sauce. Because my pan's so full, I'm going to transfer the sauce to the noodles and add the remaining ingredients there because my pan is too full. So here we go. Beautiful. That gives me a lot more room. Make sure you get right down to the bottom and get them all lifted up. Depending on how quickly you cooked your noodles, they could be stuck on the bottom a bit. There we go. I'm just gonna make a big pot of pasta. Okay. I might only add half the cream it needs because this is a lot. I'm gonna add 3/4 of a cup of cream, which is what the single batch calls for. it in there. Then you get that more creamy look because it's the lighter color. The cream will sweeten it a bit, so that'll be nice. If you didn't have heavy cream, you can also use coconut cream. It'll give it a bit sweeter flavor. And it'll be really nice also. Oh, it's starting to thicken up a bit now. That's much better. Once you add the cream, it'll thicken for you. Okay, this is calling for a 1/4 cup sour cream. I'm going to add the 1/4 cup and see how it tastes. And if I have to, I'm going to add the second 1/4 cup. I'm going to give this a taste. We only added half of the sour cream and half of the half and half because it's so much. So I'm going to give it a taste and see what we think. Doesn't taste too bad. I think I'll add some more salt and pepper, but I'm not going to add any more sour cream or half and half. We're just going to leave it as it is. We're going to serve it up, put it on plates, and we'll show you. Okay, so our dinner is finished. It's more like a soupy goulash than a meaty shell pasta, but that's okay. I'm going to top it with some fresh green onions because I love them. Some freshly grated cheese, and I also want to grab some crushed chilies. And if you're feeling really crazy and you love sour cream, you can add an extra spoonful of sour cream right to the side of your bowl. And there you have it. And here is our beefy shells pasta supper. If you guys liked our beefy shells pasta dinner, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe.